Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
It's budget day at the House of Assembly.
Shadow Minister for Finance Chester Cooper called the budget communication uninspiring.
The Minister of Education addressing concerns about non-payment by local PE teachers and coaches. Will give you details in sports.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Topping news tonight, Deputy Prime Minister Peter Turnquest delivered a nearly 3-hour budget communication in the House of Assembly this morning. Turnquest, who is also Minister of Finance, revealed that the Minister administration intends to borrow just under $100 million in the upcoming budget cycle. This as government debt is expected to exceed $7 billion for the second straight year. Jasmine Brown reports.
Thanks, Kyle. Well, the Deputy Prime Minister spent several hours today delivering the budget and insisting that just like last year, this budget is the people's budget. Turnquest introduced the two resolutions in the House of Assembly today. One to borrow $72,387,438 to cover the shortfall in the 2019-2020 budget. The other resolution was to borrow $14,557,000 from the Caribbean Development Bank to finance a streetlight retrofitting project.
Excessive fiscal deficits and unsustainable borrowing compromise our standard of living and undermine the government's ability to perform its basic functions and compete in the global economy. These quick fixes are inevitably doomed to fail. They erode confidence, worsen the fiscal position of the nation, and compromise the future prosperity of our youth.
With this new round of borrowing, government debt is forecasted to increase from $7.4 billion to $7.61 billion in the upcoming fiscal year. The government borrowed $187 million in the 2018-2019 fiscal year. Although he said the economy performed positively overall, Turnquest acknowledged that the fiscal performance did not improve at the expected pace.
We don't fudge numbers. That's why we produce a quarterly report, so you can track it.
Turnquest foreshadowed the shortfall during his mid-year budget statement. However, at the time, he projected that revenue would fall short by 7%. Turnquest said on the expenditure front, total outlays are projected to equal approximately $2.6 billion, which is also some 9% or $259.1 million below the amount initially budgeted for the year. He added that of this total, approximately $172.3 million is anticipated to be settled in respect of arrears, in line with the budget projection.
Based on these developments, Mr. Speaker, we therefore anticipate that the fiscal deficit to total some $229 million in 2018-19, representing 1.8% of GDP, that will be broadly in line with the $237.6 billion deficit projected in the last budget. That is historical.
Now, following the events this morning, the budget debate is expected to last at least another few weeks as the MPs are expected to deliver their communications. Reporting from outside Parliament for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown. Back to you, Kyle.
All right, thanks, Jasmine. Well, the budget communication was briefly upstaged this morning by the sister of an FNM MP who began shouting from the gallery. Police eventually escorted her out the lower chamber and took her into custody, but not without some drama.
I stand in protest against the leaders and the politicians of this country that continue to abuse and corrupt the laws of this land to rape the Chipman family of their heritage.
Fireworks in the visitors' gallery as Fontella Chipman rolled. The sister of Centerville MP REECE Chipman caused quite a commotion in the House of Assembly just before the Minister of Finance delivered his budget communication.
My grandfather sworn into this country, this parliament, 100 years to this day, and we continue to do it 4 generations later. Our land will be returned to us, not by you, but by the God we serve. This system you think you have in place will be removed.
Our cameras were rolling as those sitting in the same row of Chipman got up and moved out of the way before Chipman was taken out by police.
Yes, you guys, change the system. Change the system.
When House proceedings resumed, Speaker Halson Moultrie announced that CHIPMAN has been barred from the House of Assembly.
It's hereby ordered never to enter the precincts of this Parliament for the remainder of this session.
Finance Minister Peter Turnquest said he wasn't expecting that ahead of his budget communication.
I don't know what to say, but anyway. Keep going.
After the lengthy budget communication was completed, the House Speaker raised the issue again, calling it a breach. Fontella Chipman Roll is the granddaughter of cultural icon John Chippy Chipman. Her brother REECE was seated just feet away on the floor of the House of Assembly, among other lawmakers. Outside Parliament, he told reporters that while he didn't expect her to do what she did, he supports his sister and everything she said.
It was a surprise that it happened. It was a surprise to me. However, I make no apologies for what she says because I believe in the same things that she believes in, which is justice and righteousness within Parliament and without. And I think it's at this time we have a lot of Bahamians that are frustrated with the way the system has not given them not even a chance.
Chipman said for decades his family, as well as many other Bahamian families, have been disenfranchised. He said he's glad someone used their voice to speak up.
We still have documents and pages of our heritage, but the story was changed. And my sister and I would have done a lot of research. And when you go to persons, even within governments, who have acquired property, and you try to trace the property back, and you can't find out who the people was who got it, or the companies that you can't even find the companies in the registrar's office. That is how the H.N. Chipman line had been reversed. And so her protest really is not selfish. It's not about self. It's about the people of the Bahamas that deserve so much more.
The Minister administration also announcing a number of tax relief measures that have been proposed in the 2019-2020 budget. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Peter Turnquest had this to say about the tax cuts.
We have proposed a number of tax relief measures to provide some reprieve to all citizens and to encourage economic activity by making the import of certain items relatively cheaper, thereby making it comparatively easier for persons to enter existing markets and in some cases create new ones.
They include home refrigerators of 18 cubic feet or smaller and home stoves that are 30 inches wide or smaller becoming duty-free. Duty on garbage can liners, fire extinguishers, and flashlights being reduced to 25% from 45%. Pens, pencils, crayons, sharpeners, school rulers, and chart paper will all be duty-free, while all household furniture will see their duty decrease from 45% to 25%. Meantime, the government is also extending its VAT zero rating on light bills under $300.
One of the things you will note, Mr. Speaker, as I said, even in our budget presentation and rollout, we want to engage the creative community because we believe fundamentally that is what is Bahamian. That is what projects who we are as a people. And so we want to facilitate it as best we can.
Well, Shadow Minister for Finance Chester Cooper said the budget communication was void of hope, adding that the minister's administration is an abysmal failure. Jillian Gray has that.
The opposition said that speech was uninspiring and void of hope for the Bahamian people.
Today we heard a lot of gibberish. We heard nothing to uplift the Bahamian people. There's been no announcement of growth opportunities or relief to the Bahamian people as their quality of life diminishes.
Opposition spokesman for Finance Chester Cooper said the budget communication was filled with the same rhetoric as last year and added that he saw no real plan to grow the economy. Cooper added that while the government boasts of transparency, nothing could be further from the truth, especially as it relates to the relocation of the post office into a building owned by a sitting cabinet minister. He added that the VAT increase last year severely damaged economic growth.
Increased VAT by 60%, but only collected 21% more VAT revenue. This budget is a tale of epic failure. The modeling and implementation was simply disastrous. Where are the prognosticators of a rebounded economy now that growth expectations have not been met?
Cooper said although the Minutes administration boasts of meeting its deficit target, complaints continue from vendors and contractors who have not been paid. He also cast doubt that the government would be able to collect the millions in revenue owed within the next 2 months.
In the face of the minister's transparency soapbox, we question how the minister will collect an average of $250 million per month in the last 2 months, when they only received an average of $190 million over the first 10 months.
As for the finance minister's assertion that thousands of Bahamians are benefiting from the VAT exemption on electricity bills under $300, the EXUMA's and Ragged Island MP accused the Minutes administration of putting numbers before people. He insisted that after last year's 60% VAT hike, the cost of living drastically increased and many Bahamians can't afford to pay their bills.
The people know their quality of life diminishes, and the VAT increase has driven inflation up dramatically.
Reporting for our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
In other news, the Court of Appeal has overturned the decision of Magistrate Ambrose Brewster to dismiss charges against 3 people accused of helping former Urban Renewal boss Michelle Reckley launder more than $250,000 after finding the statute of limitations had expired. Back in March, the magistrate told 26-year-old Kylon Vincent, 28-year-old Stephanie Cawley, and 57-year-old Christopher Simonet that he lacked jurisdiction to preside over their case because the charges were laid against them more than 6 months after they were alleged to have been committed. Outside the House of Assembly today, Attorney General Carl Bethel congratulated the Director of Public Prosecution.
I'm given to understand from the DPP that that appeal has been won by him. And so I wish to congratulate him and congratulate overall the administration of justice. I think that it's a good day for the administration of justice in the Bahamas, and we look forward, of course, to a fair resolution before an appropriate impartial tribunal, meaning before a magistrate.
Prosecutors allege that Reckley and another between December 2016 and April 2017 obtained payments totaling over $1.2 million from the government for contracts under the government's Small Homes Repair Program in the aftermath of Hurricane Matthew. The opposition had criticized the government, saying Reckley was being targeted because she is a known supporter of the PLP. So now that the Court of Appeal has overturned that ruling, Reckley's co-accused will have to head back to court for arraignment.
If at the end of the day, at a fair trial conducted before a magistrate, the evidence isn't sufficient, then one would have to give the same congratulation. If the evidence is sufficient, then people will be convicted, and then one would have to give the same congratulation, because at the end of the day, we only want a fair system of trial using the best evidence lawfully obtained that can be lawfully adduced.
The family of a man who was shot and killed on Bimini back on May 19th say he was a loving father of his 6 children. Jared Higgs also tells us the man's father was killed in a similar way several years ago.
Sometimes I'm wondering now how we're going to go on without his help. He was a very, very good son.
33-year-old Adrian Duncombe left behind 6 kids when he was gunned down 10 days ago. His grandmother, SUSY Duncombe, says he was a model parent.
Very, very good as a father. Very good.
According to police, shortly after 3 a.m. on May 19th, officers in North Bimini responded to reports of gunshots near Bailey Town. That's when they discovered Duncombe in his residence with gunshot wounds to his upper body.
There were 2 gunshots. One must have grazed the front door, and the next one went straight through the front door into his heart.
Duncombe's uncle, PERCY Duncombe, says he discovered his nephew's body.
I definitely didn't think that my nephew deserved this. I believe it might have been some very major, petty misunderstanding.
The 55-year-old says his dad, nephew's father, was killed in a similar fashion in New Providence back in 1996. He says he never expected such a cruel coincidence.
Never.
When he got out of the van, going in his house, they shot him, and he didn't make the hospital. He died before he reached the hospital at the age of 32. And he always used to say to people, if anybody say anything out of the way to him or make any little threats, he always let them know the same thing was not going to happen to him as what happened to his father. And the same thing happened. His father was 32 and he was 33.
Duncombe's 6 kids range in age from 14 to 6 years old.
His 2 older children, is in Miami, and he had already made plans for them to come to spend the summer with him. They come to us every summer.
The 33-year-old operated a car wash near his house and was said to have close relationships with people all over Bimini. His killing came just weeks after the shocking death of 47-year-old American businessman Alian Perez. Perez, the owner of popular restaurant Bimini Big John's, was shot and killed after answering a knock on the door of his Bimini home. And with police still investigating Duncombe's killing, his grandmother and uncle differ in their view of safety in Bimini.
Things have changed so much.
Incidents happening like this, you find that people might feel as if like, okay, we can't live in Bimini no more, Bimini is getting so dangerous. No, that's not the case.
Our news records indicate that there have been 33 murders so far in 2019. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
All right, thanks, Jared. Still to come, police investigating the shooting death of a 17-year-old boy. Plus, EXUMA police searching for a wanted man. Stay tuned.